I profit over $100,000 per year buying books on Amazon and then reselling them back on Amazon for profit. And a big part of making that $100,000 profit every year is actually through the process of buying and reselling the same books, which I call replens. So in today's video, what I'm doing is share you three of my many replens, and explain to you three rules, three strategies that you should adhere to if you really want to be successful with this Amazon to Amazon book flipping model. Okay, so I have a book here, The Art of Fashion Draping. This is a book that I've sold a few times in the past. And so because I've sold it multiple times, I now call it a replen. For example, when I look at my order page over the last 365 days, you can see that I have sold it twice. So this is kind of a newer book to me. It sold 2 months ago, both times for right around 72 and 77 bucks. When I see that happen, when a book sells multiple times, I'm now interested in potentially adding that to an arsenal of books that are part of a replen list that I can continue to buy and buy and buy again. If you think of the most successful stores around us, like Walmart and Target, they tend to sell the same things over and over and over again, just like Coca-Cola is always in every single grocery store, because we know that tons of people want to buy it. So if you can find products or books like that, then really that's what's going to make you very profitable long term. So when we scroll down here to the keeper graph, kind of what you'll notice is that it does appear that this is a book that one really doesn't sell a ton, but it definitely does sell. It looks like it sells in January decently well, and in August, September, okay. Now, interestingly to me, when I had purchased this book earlier in the year, I was anticipating or expecting that it would sell for 75 bucks. And I thought the lowest use price would probably get to that price point. In August and September, that actually did not happen, but I was still able to sell my book. And I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but your data is actually more important than Keepa's data or Amazon's data. So in this case, I'm really interested in having this book even for the next August and September season, even though the price didn't really get that high, just because I have my own data there. But really, one of the first tips and strategies I have for you is that when you sell a book profitably, don't forget about it. Think, can you go buy it and source it again and again and again? And the easiest way to do that is to track that product with Keepa. So if you just click on the track product feature here, you can go ahead and update the tracking, and you can see I'm tracking this book for whenever it gets under 30 bucks. And the reason for that is because if I can buy the book for under 30 and then flip it for 70, I'm making 20-ish plus dollars profit every time I sell the book, which is great. And so I want to be notified if that ever becomes available. Now, when I go over here to my inventory, you can see that I have 3 units going into inventory priced at $199. That's because that's what my prep center priced them at. And so I will price them accordingly in that $70 to $80 range, especially with this upcoming January textbook season. But what you want to do with replens is always be in stock, right? And so I guess really that's the first main thing, is that when you have replens, never go out of stock. The moment you go out of stock is the moment you have no ability, no opportunity, no potential to make any sales. Imagine if, a convenience store ran out of Coca-Cola for a week. That'd be terrible for them, because they probably sell Coca-Cola every day. And this particular book is definitely not going to sell every day. But the thing is, when you do find good replens, then you want to make sure you're always in stock. And so that's why immediately after selling those 2 copies, when I only had 2 available, I was kind of just testing the product out. I said, okay, let's go and see if I can buy this book again. And so you can see I did purchase this back on September 27, 2025. Here's the order detail page. I paid around 27 bucks for it. And again, I was able to sell this book during a time where the lowest price was actually still pretty cheap. And again, I was expecting the lowest use price to go up in August, September. It actually didn't, but that's okay. It actually enabled me to buy more copies and prepare for the upcoming January textbook season. You actually see with the used offer count being at 23 in January and going all the way down to about 6, that there are quite a number of sellers that do go off the listing because people buy the book. And so the second major tip of replens is your own data is more valuable than Keepa's data or Amazon's data. So just remember that the way that this Keepa graph is produced is off of scraping data off of the Amazon webpage. In other words, there's a lot of ways that this data can show up incorrectly. For example, if Amazon doesn't report sales rank correctly, well, then Keepa scrapes that data, which is incorrect data, and then shows it to the user. Beyond that, Keepa can just make errors. Keepa may not be tracking a book to the degree that you'd want them to track the book. And so therefore, it's, even though Keepa is what we fundamentally are using to make predictions about what products and what books will do well, understand that this data here is what really matters. Okay, so I was able to sell this book in August and September twice for over 70 bucks. Okay, that's my data. I know that I've sold that book. Okay, so let's go try to find that book at a much cheaper price to see if we can't replenish it and then sell it again. So I'm focusing on that data. So even though, again, In August and September of this year, the used price was in the 25s. I sold it multiple copies in the 70s. And if I had more copies available, I more than likely would have been able to sell them. So I'm going to prioritize that data over Keepa's data. Now, when we go over to this next book, The New Dinosaur and Alternative Evolution, this is a book, again, that I've sold a few times. So again, these are not amazing replens, right? These are sort of just okay replens, but I was able to sell this twice in the last year for 80 and also for 72. And so I'm always on the lookout for this book, right? Because I have real data being able to sell between 70 and 80 bucks. When you scroll down to the Keepa graph, you can see November, December, it was selling, at the lowest price, right around 70, had some issues with high pricing errors here from January to May. And then it's kind of been right around the $60, $70 range. And so it's like, okay, if I can go ahead and replen this, if I can go and pick it up at a good enough purchase price, right, make sure that the other data long-term looks good on Keepa, then those two things together make me confident to want to go buy another copy. And so I was able to pick up another copy for $33. And so now I have this back in stock. And again, the rule that I told you is that when you have replens, you never want to be out of stock. And so for me, I have 6 copies that are going to the Amazon warehouse. And that's because those 6 copies should help me be, in stock for a good period of time, 3 months, 6 months, maybe up to 9 months. But it's me getting to replenish this book, having it available to people who want to buy it, and being able to make money off it. Now, when I kind of expand a little bit further back and go back a couple more years, you can see that beyond 11 months, I did sell it 2 years ago in November of 2023 for 70 and 90. So again, I had this data that, okay, this book is actually worth something, it has some value. So once again, I can track this book over on Amazon. And so whenever it gets, let's say $35 or less, then I'll be interested. So I can just go ahead and put 35, include shipping costs, and then I can track this for the next 10 years. And again, when we do look at this Keepa graph long term, you can really see it just is a very expensive book. Often is very expensive in the 50s and 60s and sells quite a bit. So a book that once it gets to that price, I'm willing to pick it up. And again, I'm going to make sure that I'm in stock. And again, I'm going to utilize my own data over Keepa, over Amazon. So you can even see that right now, the cheapest available price is $37. But to me, that even though that it does matter to some degree, it doesn't matter as much insofar as that I know I've been able to sell for 70 to 80 bucks. So that's what I'm thinking about when I'm purchasing and picking up copies of this book, because that's the target price to sell the book at. Now, here's another replen. This is actually a Pokemon official game guide. And if I go ahead and look at my order page, you can see I've sold this in the last year a number of times. So this is now starting to become, I would say, like a decent replen once you're able to sell it for, maybe more than 5 times per year and maybe make, at least a couple $100 profit per year on it. So this is a book that, again, I'm looking at my own data, sold it for 105, 98, 98, 96, 96, 110, 110. So I have some pretty good data to say that, okay, this book is probably worth on the low end in the 90s and the high end right around like 110. So if I can pick it up at a price point, at $45 or less, that actually is a great margin. So independent of whatever the Keepa graph says, like that's kind of really what I'm looking for when I'm thinking about picking up this book. Now you can see I just recently picked up a few copies for under 40 bucks. And when you do look at the Keepa graph, again, you'll notice that the used price right now is like 40 bucks. You can even see that from really the last month or so, it's been right around 40 bucks. But even going in November, December, and January of the previous year is in the 40s. But if I have data to show that I can sell for 90 to 110, well, this is actually a positive for me, because the Keepa graph, to most people, they're going to look at this and go, okay, based upon the Keepa graph, I think I can probably only sell this for 60 to 75 bucks. But for me, I know that I can sell for much more than that just from having tested the product over a longer period of time. So I'm actually sort of benefit in this regard, because I know that I can probably sell for a much higher price point. And again, if we look at the last 40 to 300 days, again, it's a book that holds some good long-term historical value with plenty of opportunities of when it does get cheaper and when you can pick up multiple copies. But again, I want to make sure that I'm prioritizing my own data, and I also want to make sure that I'm always in stock. And so when we scroll down here, you can see I have multiple units that are heading into inventory. I actually only have 1 unit left in inventory right now. That's actually available. Actually, I have 3 in inventory that are available for sale and have more on their way. So again, want to make sure that I'm always in stock and want to make sure I'm prioritizing my own data. Now, the third thing that's really going to help you with your best replens, and again, by no means are these my best replens. These are, I would say, lower level, lower tier replens. But once you find really, really good replens, what I recommend doing is also trying to source them over on eBay or other sites if possible to, get them cheaply. And so what would I recommend here? If there's a book that's out there making you at least $500 a year, that's a book worth checking on every single day on eBay, because what can often happen is the book comes up for auction, and if no one's really paying attention to it, that book can really be sold for pennies on the dollar, for very, very cheap. So all you do is really simple. If, let's say, for example, this first book, The Art of Fashion Draping, let's say it was a $500 per year book in profit, I would say that it is then worth checking on this book every day on eBay. And so what I mean by that is really just typing in The Art of Fashion Draping, or you can also put in the ISBN if you want. I would recommend probably putting the title rather than the ISBN, just because some people won't put the ISBN and then it won't show up if you search for the ISBN. So The Art of Fashion Draping, and then save it for newly listed. And so I've got newly listed here. Doesn't matter. I would say just all. So whether it's auction or buy now, it doesn't matter. And then the idea here is, if it's a book that's making $500 profit per year, you should be checking on this probably not even just every day, multiple times per day. And the easiest way to do that is essentially just bookmark it on your bookmark bar. So I went ahead, for example, made a bookmark called eBay, and all you do is you right click on the bookmark bar and you go ahead and click add folder. And when you add the folder, you go ahead and type the name in. So I typed in eBay like this, and you can call whatever you want and click save, and then it will show up here in your bookmark, hidden bookmark column, and then you basically drag it over here to the bookmark bar. And so I've gone ahead and then bookmarked it. So I went The Art of Fashion Draping, searched that, went by time newly listed, and now I'm going to go and bookmark that and save it to that folder. So you can name it whatever you want, Art of Fashion Draping, whatever name that you want to help you remember that this is a book that you're really interested in. Doesn't matter what the naming system is, just whatever is important to you. Go ahead and add it. And then now you can see that shows up here in The Art of Fashion Draping. Now you can do the same thing with The New Dinosaurs. So again, I don't do it for this book because it doesn't make me like $500 profit per year, but if it did, I definitely would. And then the same thing here with this Pokemon book. Even though the Pokemon book doesn't make me $500 profit per year, it's a couple $100 profit per year. And so that might be worth it to you to start tracking it over on eBay. In this case, because it was a very wordy title and it has Pokemon, which is a massive brand and is in a lot of other products, I went ahead and just used the ISBN, put that in there, and again, sorted by newly listed, went ahead and added that to the bookmark folder. And so the way that this works is really simple, right? It's every single day you log in, when you turn the computer on, you go to your bookmark bar and you just right click and you open all three. And you go, okay, so has anything been added for The Art of Fashion Draping? And this will be really easy, quick, and simple the more often you do it. The less frequently you do it, the more you're gonna have to look and search. But for example, I had to scroll down a little bit to see the right book. So 35, it's $40. It's getting close to the price that I wanted at. And maybe, again, another tip or strategy here is you can go ahead and you can contact the seller and you can say, hey, would you take $20? And maybe at $26 with shipping included, that's a great deal. So you can go ahead and send messages like that. But if you were to check on this every single day, you would know that, okay, these were posted today, nothing new has been posted, boom, exit out of it. Same thing here, if you're checking on this every day, okay, I see 2 new listings and it's not at a price point that I want, boom, get out of there. And so let's say you were doing this every day and this copy showed up, or a copy of the book you're looking showed up, and it was for auction, starting at $2.99, plus $10 shipping on a 7-day auction. Well, again, it's very possible you could pick that book up for much cheaper than really what the market value is, just because you're actively looking at it every day, okay? And so to conclude this video, if you want to get really good at making real profit on Amazon through book flipping, it's, buying books on Amazon and testing them to try to sell them. And when you do sell them profitably on Amazon, not forgetting about them, especially if they're great replens. And then doing 3 things, which is 1, never being out of stock on that book. So once you find a book that's amazing, and that will be defined by your own terms. For you, in the beginning, it might be a book that you are able to sell 5 times a year. And then later on, it might be a book you sell 20 times a year. Or later on, it might be a $1,000 profit book over the year, right? It's all independent. It's all dependent on you, right? So step number 1, always be in stock. That's the most important thing. Remember that convenience stores and Walmart, Target never run out of Coca-Cola because they know everyday people want Coca-Cola, right? So never run out of stock. Number 2, prioritize your own data over Keepa's data and over Amazon's data. If the Keepa graph says the book sells for $30 and there's only a few sales range drops, but then on your side, you sell plenty of times for $70 or $80, that's amazing. That your own data is much better than Amazon and Keepa's data. So prioritize that over Keepa and Amazon. And then finally, number 3 is if it truly is an amazing replen, you need to be looking out for it every single day. You need to live, think, breathe everything about it. Like, it should be ingrained in your mind, right? Because if there's a book out there that makes you $500 or $1,000 or 2,000, or for example, a book that I shared at Books and Beyond, which you should go to, the first year we had Books and Beyond, I shared a book that made me $10,000 profit per year, for one of my best replens ever. That should be ingrained into your mind. Like, you should be thinking about that but all the time. And so if you can do those three things, I guarantee you'll be a much better bookseller. It's way more likely that you'll run a profitable book business. And so that's all I have for you. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, like it, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.